Since their invention, video games have offered the player a way to have fun, experience new worlds, and play with friends. While these are positive benefits, the question should be asked, what are the long-term effects of playing video games on the user? What do those within the fields of communication and education have to say about negative effects of video games?
I think games are meant to be highly addictive, and I think they can mess with our brains to encourage us to spend a lot of time playing video games, and also, frankly, spend a lot of money playing video games. There's a thing that you always have to have, like the latest and greatest game. Like, for example, Madden comes out with a new game every year, right? Well, why wouldn't you just play last year's Madden? Well, you got to have this one because there's new features. You got to have the updated rosters, all that stuff. The video game industry really wants you to spend your money. They want your money to go toward games. And so I think it can eat up both your time and your money. Money we can always make more of. Time we can't. We can't make more time.
The single most dangerous thing about video games, for me at least, is how they change our desires and engage in relationships. If they are not checked, if they're not, then we can very easily, because here's the ultimate thing in a video game, to some degree. We may be playing the game. There are moments when we play these games and we start thinking about being in control and realizing that control level that I have in a video game is not something I experience in real life. That leads to a ton of consequences. That leads to a feeling of disconnected from my life, and it's not what it should be. It leads to a feeling of I'm not in control of my life, which ultimately can lead you to isolation and depression. It can lead you to I would prefer to be in a video game than in my real life because my real life is not great and the video game is better.
The video game industry started with simple games like Pong and has grown to a multi-billion-dollar empire that offers immersive environments and entire worlds.
I know some people whose grades deeply suffered because of video games. When I was growing up, World of Warcraft was incredibly popular. And I had a number of friends who really disengaged with friends and with school and other things because they were so busy playing World of Warcraft and trying to level up their characters and that sort of thing. And so I think for some people, it can become too addictive to where it's overpowering and kind of runs your life.
That's probably the most dangerous thing, is the moments when video games draw me away from people and affect my relationships. That's where we're moving into the most dangerous space with them. Because I think you could get completely lost in a virtual space and never, ever want to engage with humans again. You would be just isolated and alone. I think that's where we start seeing the most dangerous parts, honestly, of the mental health side of any kind of media, is when I'm completely lost in it and I don't relate to humans or connect with people. That level of isolation will almost always lead to depression and ultimately to some dangerous spaces. We have to be constantly aware that the kinds of games we play over time will have some level of impact on the ways we're thinking and playing. So when we put our minds into those spaces, we need to be careful about the kinds of choices we're making, because regardless of whether we want to or not, we will start thinking in directions, maybe not the same answers, but at least in the same kinds of questions as the games we're playing.
With such negative aspects of video games being mentioned, it's worth asking, are there any benefits of video game playing?
There's a joke online right now that most kids learn more about history from Assassin's Creed than they did from their history class. There are several professors I know that are currently working on teaching history by actually going in and playing games in different segments of time so that people can actually find out, like, what was it like to be in this? And they're using games like Civilization to do that. The most fascinating, the best one for me is that when the Cathedral of Notre Dame burned down, they didn't have blueprints to rebuild it, but Assassin's Creed had scanned it inch by inch. So they're using Assassin's Creed 3D model to rebuild the real Notre Dame Cathedral.
And I think there's a lot we can learn from video games too. It doesn't have to be all violence or things like that. I think you can learn communication and strategy and that sort of thing.
Every single problem that I face has a solution. I've been playing video games since I was younger than you. And part of what it's taught me my whole life is, if you see a problem in front of you, there has to be a solution to it. It gives me confidence to know that it's also okay, because I'm facing problems that have solutions, to know that if I fail at them, I'll get other chances, which I think is a really powerful thing, especially for young people, to kind of constantly, you've probably had ones where you failed at 20, 30 times and you still keep going. Well, you don't bothered by failure because I'll just keep going back and do it again because eventually I'll figure it out. And lastly, if I have problems that I can't figure out and I go to the point where I say, I just can't get it, what's your next natural solution? I go look for other people who can help me. Those are fantastic skills for life. I see a problem in front of me I know I can solve. I'm willing to try and fail until I actually solve it. And if I keep butting my head against the same thing and it doesn't work, just go ask for help and the people around me will help me figure it out. If those are the three lessons, the core ideas of solving problems that young people especially, take away from video games, that's the greatest thing we can possibly use them to teach them.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, online video games offered players the ability to stay connected with friends and family, as well as the ability to have fun.
So in the pandemic, I actually think one of the biggest benefits of video games is the capacity, because we're stuck in a singular space, to get out of that space.
With the online nature of video games and the ability to connect with other people, I think it's, especially during a pandemic, you're able to maybe hang out with your friends even though you can't be physically together. And I think community is really important and connection is really important.
Video games are a technology that offers players an escape from reality. Sometimes this can provide an ability to connect, to have fun, and to learn in new and exciting ways. However, when abused or when it becomes an addiction, or when the content becomes destructive, then playing video games can lead to negative outcomes in life.
Again, when we start getting into video games that get closer and closer to real life, I think we have to start looking much more closely, not only at what we're playing, but how we're thinking and feeling after we're done playing.
The worlds found in video games can be amazing, beautiful, and full of great stories, but they are nothing compared with truly living life in the real world.